Very good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to today's uLaw webinar. The topic or title for today's webinar is Getting Started with uLaw. It's going to be a session where we get to show you some of the basic steps someone has to take when they're first starting to utilize the product, starting to utilize when they're migrating over from maybe a previous system, or if you're starting afresh, a lot of the steps that you have to take. And we'll certainly showcase some of the best practices around how best you can utilize the platform or product to maximize the benefits and get the best bang for your buck. Today's webinar is not accredited for any CPD session or CPD credits, but hopefully it's going to be a fast-paced session where I can walk you through the platforms, maybe some of the new features we have in the product, and as I mentioned, some of the fundamental building blocks of the product that you should look to maximize if you're not doing today. Like every other uLaw webinar, today's webinar has, of course, this very specific agenda. We're going to talk about specifically, as I mentioned before, some of the best practices to use with uLaw, but important things such as information that you need to keep in mind as you enter them into the platform, such as your contacts, understanding how best you can import them into the product, utilizing the files or bringing over files from previous systems, the ability for you to now active, close, or archive statuses of these different files, and of course, moving from the matters, understanding how behind the scene uLawPractice generates all of the essential legal accounting and accounting documents that are necessary for you to manage and maintain some of the important financial health checks of your business. Okay, right from trust to general to even accounts receivables, HST documents or GST or provincial tax documents based on the province you're from. And of course, last but not least, we'll also show how a growing firm can also maximize the use of uLaw through the use of additional co-worker, assistant, and accountant accounts. That pretty much is the agenda for today. Now, for someone who's looking to explore the purchase of a new legal accounting practice management software, uLawPractice, our website, uLaw.io, gives you a lot of information about us, who we serve, some of the case studies and reviews and comments from existing clients, and we encourage you to sign up for a 30-day trial. Now, once you do sign up for the 30-day trial, we give you the ability to have access to your own account that we create for you that you can use during that 30-day trial and hopefully use after the trial. But we'll also give you a playground account that allows you to maximize using the platform, getting acclimatized to the platform, and as part of that onboarding session, we provide you with important collateral such as this document, which is really a onboarding document. How do we get started? All the steps that you would have to take. Of course, it looks comprehensive, but these are pretty much broken down into micro steps. So starting with, changing your password, because we give you a default password, changing all of the important pieces of information that are more specific to your business, right from the rates that you're going to be utilizing to taxes, all of the disbursement costs, etc. And then setting up your bank accounts within the platform, right? Moving from there to onboarding contacts, onboarding or creating matters, and then going through the whole workflow of how you go about retaining the customer, docketing, dispersing, invoicing, and then last but not the least, generating the ledgers and journals that you need at the end of the month or on a time period basis. uLaw is also a full-fledged business accounting software. So if you look at steps, part of the steps 13 to 16 also has a component of disbursements, but we also allow you to manage your own office expenses. And these office expenses many times are to keep the lights on for your business. These are your license fees. These are all of your costs to keep the business going. And we manage those numbers in terms of providing you with in-depth reports on the expense book, expense reports, receivables, as I mentioned, as part of your invoices, as well as all of your provincial tax documents, balance sheet, P&L. So we'll look at all of those components. Okay, so that's really the depth and breadth of the platform, starting with as simple as customizing or configuring the platform using settings to maximizing it through the workflow across client-related information workflows as well as your own office expense-related. Okay, so steps 1 to 4, setting up the password, taxes, rates, and bank accounts. Steps 5 to 8, importing all of your client information, importing any active matters that you may have or creating new ones. And of course, if you're getting started, you probably have just started your trust account, or if you're migrating over, you already have a trust balance. So setting up the trust balances in uLaw is equally important to get started. Steps 9 to 13, of course, is replicating or giving a placeholder name and account number of your financial institution accounts within uLaw so that we know which platform or which bank accounts you're dealing with as you work through the platform. And the last step, of course, is the AR balance, generating the balance sheet and trial balance. Okay, so in terms of a legal accounting software, and that's one of the things that we often talk about as a product, as a thought process contributor in this business, we believe a legal office or a law office, of course, has these two important responsibilities of both managing client-related information as well as their own office-related information. And the responsibility in terms of being audited, being able to report on this information, both from a law society standpoint as well as a CRA standpoint. So kind of a multifold need for data entry and reporting, right? And a legal accounting software is best suited, we feel, to manage, maintain, and give you these flexibilities around both these different silos, both legal law society related as well as your revenue agency related, because it's one software that manages client related information, and same software allows you to manage your expense. So when you do an expense book, it's not only capturing your office expenses, it's also capturing the disbursements that you've paid out on behalf of a client. And many legal accounting software, of course, you have to do your research in terms of the software that's best suited for your firm. Similar to uLaw, of course, you have other legal accounting softwares. We're based on the cloud. You may have software that's based in the cloud, maybe not in the cloud. So you really need to understand a software that's best suited for you. But if you are in the market to look for a platform that would best help automate many of these tasks that you do, please do start at a legal accounting Google search and see if that's a great fit for your business. Okay. More so than anything else, one of the important underlying aspects of the legal accounting software that is purpose-built for legal offices in terms of accountability, in terms of, most importantly, compliance. Okay. At the end of the day, you are needed to generate ledgers and journals and all of these different documents that you need to produce on demand or when getting audited. And wow, I cannot believe that's probably the fastest slide share I've ever done in any of my webinars. I'm going to now shift gears, of course, into jumping into my fictitious uLaw account. I've logged in as my favorite, Roger Moore. As you can see, we're cloud-based. We're 256-bit encrypted, so it's bank-grade security. So your data is always secure and hosted in Canadian soil with our servers across Montreal or Quebec and Ottawa. And what you see here as part of our platform is just a landing page or a dashboard that allows for easy navigation. And let me go ahead and start off by showing you as part of steps 1 to 4 or around how best you can get started. So let's say you've signed up for the account and you're getting started, or if you've been using it for a while and then you need to understand how you can best personalize it. The settings on the top right corner that you see here pretty much allows you to customize almost all of the screens that you see on the left-hand side, many of these screens at least. Starting with change password, we encourage you to have a very strong password. Okay, so we tell you if it's weak, strong, right? And of course, if you're adding alphabets, numbers, special characters, it just gets stronger. And once you've changed your password, of course, details based on your own 30-day intake form that you've signed up with us, we are able to pre-populate a lot of this information. But if you do have additional information that you need to fill out, you certainly can do that. Right? So if you have some, the profession is important, but if you have a job title, if your law firm name changes, you can update that. You can add multiple addresses to your office business address, phone numbers, emails, as well as your own website. So let's say our website just changed to uLaw.io. What happens is these details reflect or get reflected in all of the customer-facing documents that you send out, right, from invoicing to statement of activities and things of that nature. Okay. And once you've updated a certain piece of information, you click on the Save button, and that automatically reflects. If you look at the menu options here, we've got the dashboard, and let's say I want to personalize this. Okay. Let's say I want to have weather as one of the news. And then I want to have most recently modified contacts, matters, and then I want news around COVID. And let's say I want to have my invoice spending matters. So I, as the legal firm here or the individual sole practitioner, have now just customized this dashboard based on what I need. Okay, so the platform remains to be the same, but how best you can personalize it comes down to the settings, because it's the same product used by all of our clients. So you can see, based on how you personalize it in the settings, this changes, and each of these elements, of course, apart from the news, has a certain significance as to why it exists. Modified contacts, fast and easy way for you to maneuver or get into that contact. So if you're working on this and you've just started off with this client, and you can go straight into the matter, etc. But if you just want a quick glance of what's really happened with this contact, there you go. You know that nothing has really started with this matter or this client. There's nothing to be invoiced or looked at. But if I look at Greg, no entries. Interesting. Let me choose another matter or a contact. Here you could see for Petra, you have a total invoice of $765 and trust funds was $765. So you could clearly see right away that for this client, you have $765 in trust, which was then moved because the trust balance is 0 and there's nothing in pending trust transfer. And if you wanted to know more, you can go right from here. Okay, so this is a faster, easier navigation from a context of the client. Very similarly, if you want to know specific about a file or a matter, so same Petra was a Steffi, so you looked at it from a customer's perspective. If Petra had multiple matters, you would see those multiple matters being lined up right under here. But I wanted to look up at Petra was a Steffi, the matter, and clearly see that there is the same information. And if you wanted to go into the matter itself, let's say you wanted to look at the dockets, you wanted to look at any disbursements, if any, you can go right into the file or the matter itself. Yeah. So dashboard, imagine it to be like a landing page that allows you to quickly navigate based on what you're looking to get to. And one of my favorite is invoice spending matters. So this is the, I would say, a data element or a dashboard element that highlights all of the matters for whom you've done the work and you've not yet generated the invoice. Okay, so if you really look at highway speeding, You can clearly invoice right from here. But let's say you want to look at the matter. You click on the title, and it takes you to that specific matter. So this is Alex, and there was a speeding, and you can see there's status of invoice spending. So you could go ahead and generate a pre-bill, which brings up the same pop-up window, or if you're very confident of this list, that the work has been put in, right? And each and every line item is color-coded, so you can see these are all invoice spending matters under 30 days. But if I keep going down, you can see this is greater than 45 days. The color code is red compared to the orange, right? If it's less than a week, then it's a different color. So if you really wanted to invoice this particular matter, you can just click on this red button and do a quick preview. You don't have to even go into the matter or file. You can do it right from your dashboard. Okay. So 3 data or dashboard elements that I've introduced you to, and there's a few more, such as the upcoming events, upcoming tasks or to-dos. You can personalize all of them right under your dashboard. Moving along in our settings, as part of that initial steps, the next thing we look for is, from a matter perspective, we want to understand if your default duration, if your default time is rounding it to the next 6 minutes, if you're doing billable time, if you're at 12 or 24 hours, so simple things like that. The default docket style, if you're going to be starting off with, billable time or flat rate. Of course, within the matter, you can always switch between the two, or you can have multiple of these docket types mixed into the same file. But this is kind of your starting point, if you will. Okay? And this is where you can really personalize the whole invoice experience for your business. So if you want to have a default theme for invoices, default theme for receipts, if you only want to show your corporation name in invoices, sometimes people don't want to show their names. If you want, by default, eco-friendly invoices, right? Even to the point where you want to show trust balance as positive or negative, right? Sometimes people get concerned if, for example, you see this is black, but if this was negative, that just means that there's trust money sitting that is not yours, but can be always taken back if there's a retainer refund. But using the settings, you can kind of numb the effect of that by either keeping it positive or negative. We do support both Canadian and the French language, of course, and you can change the setting based on your need. So there's quite a few settings to explore within a matter, and I guess that will be a webinar in itself. The next important tab that I'll highlight, and I believe everyone pretty much starts off here, is if you do have a tax number, you can enter that in. We enter it in invoices and other documents where it's relevant. This is where you would start off with your rates. Now, this is not set in stone. These rates can be changed file to file, client to client, can always be overridden. But once again, it's a starting point for your business. You don't have to remember what that typical billing rate is for a regular client. If it's a friend or a friend's reference, and let's say you want to have preferential rating or rates for those clients, you can change that at any time within the matter, as long as you've not invoiced, right? And when you do sign up for your uLaw account, we set you up based on the information you provided, based on the province you're from, and we default set this up, but you can always change this based on how situations change. For example, if you're doing GST, you'd notice the rates change in terms of how we apply. And starting from the overdue penalty rate all the way to even your assistance costs, or let me start off with the disbursement. So starting with the overdue penalty rate all the way to bank draft rate. There are at least about 8 to 9 different disbursement costs that we allow you to provide kind of a default costing, if you will. Many times, especially if this is a growing business where you have a certain policy for these disbursements, like how much would you charge per mileage, how much do you typically charge for photocopies and things of that nature, maybe you charge 50 cents or maybe $1. So you as the business owner can decide what those default disbursement costs are, so that when it's you or anyone else in your business who's looking to add that new disbursement, then those costs are automatically populated by the platform. Okay? Now, we as a platform do integrate with other products. For example, we integrate with at least 5 different payment gateways today, starting with NewWay or Pivotal to Moneris, TD, Global Payments, and more recently with LawPay. So if you as a firm have decided to, let's say, take retainers and client payments through credit cards and you're looking for a online payment gateway, whether you send out a link for customers to pay at their own leisure or be able to take a credit card information and enter it, the convenience is there for you to take. And the one good thing about all of these payment gateways is that they are trust compliant, which means that they know that when you take the payment from a client, the money needs, especially if it's a retainer, then the money goes directly, the entirety of the money goes into the trust account. And of course, whatever fees that you would have to pay them for the service fee, rather, that service fee gets taken out of or withdrawn out of your general account. So you would set up both your trust and general accounts, and the clients or the payment gateway would pretty much know how to ensure that it's a trust compliant transaction. Okay? That's where you can see, you can give us your terminal ID for trust and general, and that's how we keep it secure and compliant. Now, for certain silos of practice in the province of Ontario, uLaw provides court form automation. And if you have your license number, you can enter it in the certain forms to ask for your license number, and you can decide how best to fill these court forms, and it's a very simple but very efficient feature at that. And last but not the least, for a growing firm, we often find that there's a need for various different types of contributors to the business. So you may have additional co-workers or colleagues who work along your side, especially if there's a sole practitioner who's just growing his firm, or if it's a multi-firm ownership, you have that concept of co-workers. You could have assistants or front office workers that work for your firm. You may also have some assistants around accounting, so you may have accountants or bookkeepers who occasionally have to have access to all of your financial information to do their job. Typically, information gets sent out via email, there are documents, a lot of faxes, printing, etc. And what we've done is we've allowed now users to grow their current business, to be able to expand it and share relevant information in a very secure manner to the relevant user group who need to have access to it. For example, if you want your assistant to access contacts, matters, and let's say, but not the accounts, and you want them not to be able to generate reports, you can set that up. So for example, let me just go ahead and save this. I've just changed the fact that my assistant should not be able to open up my accounts. Okay? So what really happens is, let's say I log out of here, and I'm going to say, of course, when you set up your account with us, and if you need an assistant account, we'll set it up with the actual username, first name, last name, really. But this is for a demo purpose, just wanted to show you. So the next time that person logs in, and you can kind of, replicate this across other user roles for bookkeepers, accountants, co-workers. You can even get as granular as whether you allow them to generate reports and documents. Okay? And you noticed as the assistant for Roger Moore, I've logged in. I'm able to now click on contacts and be able to add, help through the client intake form. I'm able to create or click on the Matters tab to create files, because that's an important part of my responsibility. Well, I'll wait for Join Me to refresh. Right, so you've got access to contacts, you've got access to matters. But when I click Accounts, it clearly says, permission is denied. Please contact your administrator to grant the permission. So simple things like that help you really to have a better control over your information, especially when you're expanding out from a sole practitioner standpoint. Okay? All right, so we've done the basic setting. Something, again, I went through this really fast. It's really important when you're getting started, or even if you've been using this for a while, to explore the use of settings. Sometimes even a color change can give you a little bit of a fresh look to the overall platform, especially if you've been using it for a while. Little things like that can rejuvenate the use of it. And let me move on to the next step, which is the client intake. So let's say I moved into my contacts, right? Now, whether you're a new firm who's just getting started, in which case you're just starting to acquire clients, maybe you don't have as much, and I do have a simple example account of that. So I'm logged in as Daniel Craig, another bond, and you could see that there's only a total of 4 clients that I'm dealing with here. Okay? So adding new clients here is easier, faster, and this is, imagine someone who's just gotten started. But if you look at Roger Moore, you can see he has over 1,000 clients. So totally different law firm, same platform, and we're able to manage kind of a growing firm at that. But the process of adding clients remains to be the same. So if you wanted to add a new client, you just click on Add New Contact Clients. But a more recent improvement is the ability for us to do what's called as a client portal, where you could send out an email to a prospective client who's looking to onboard, or you looking to onboard, or at least get the initial information. And you can send them a form for them to fill out using their phone. They can do it right from their email. Click on the link, fill out the information. Okay? Just going to add a quick contact. Okay. And of course, uLaw also has evolved into the mobile app space, where we do have our own apps free of charge, both on your Android as well as your Apple Store. And you're able to use your own username and password to be able to download the app and then use the same information right there. So you can access all this information to your fingertips right from your phone. And if you have a phone number for a client, and if you're using the app, you can even click on the phone number, dial that person, complete your conversation, and at the end of the conversation, will prompt you whether you want to docket that phone conversation as part of that client's matter. So it's pretty cool, efficient once you start to use it. All right, so once I've started, this is kind of my first step into actually starting to use the platform. Once I've created a client, once you have real information that's real to your own business, you start to see the significance of the product and relate to the functionalities, whether that's conflict check, whether it's generating a whole slew of documents, compliance related even, such as source of contact. So whatever information that you're looking to generate is readily available right here on the screen. And of course, let's do a quick conflict check just for first name and last name. It's a very important step before you create a file, just to make sure that you're comfortable with what that conflict check looks like. You make an informed decision after that. And here's my source of contact report, just a simple report that tells you where you're getting your clients from. Okay? So you notice you've got about 23% coming from web, another 23% from family, and these are all the contacts that you've not yet given us the source of contact. You can reach out to these customers at all times and then edit this information. So for example, Andre Russell, you can search up. That's one cool thing about the platform, is that you can easily search for any relevant information. Edit this contact, say that's an existing client or maybe external referral, and click Save. So adding, editing, and deleting information is pretty straightforward. Of course, with deletion, with more power comes more responsibility. We need you to have an admin access to be able to delete information. And here's a quick conflict check of some James Browns, James Camerons, James Bonds, quite a few celebrities here in the database. And you make, of course, an informed decision based on this report, which is date stamped. Okay? Alrighty. Let's go back to our modified contacts. I can go into James Bernard's contact. And really the next step is to create the file. We spoke about the logical step of moving forward. What do we do once you've created the file contact? And this is where you can also import contact information. So if you want to import this, we as a part of our support staff are able to help you if you have all of your contacts in any format, whether it's CSV or Outlook. We're here to help migrate that data over, so you can migrate, less than a minute, all of your contacts in, so that now you're starting to see your own data within the platform. But if you're just getting started and if you're just adding one at a time, this is pretty much how you do it. Okay? So let me go ahead and click on the Matter button and create a file. Okay, so this is a brand new Matter page or file. Everyone's seen this if you're especially a current user. If you're not, and if you're just getting started, this is what a basic file starting point is. First is to be able to, of course, as part of the settings, and maybe I should have shared this a little bit more earlier, which I'll do right now, you have the ability to create your own areas of practice. So you as a legal firm, I'm sure, offer services across multiple areas of practices. You may be doing small claims, LATB, or you may be doing criminal, family, depending on your expertise. And what's really fun is that when you create these files, if you're able to tag it or associate these files based on the areas of practice, then we as a platform are now able to give you back analytics and reports that tell you, which areas of practices are performing the best when it comes to revenue. And you can really slice and dice all of the data and information that we have to give you a lot of meaningful reports, data analytics, and dashboards that allows you to, of course, make informed business decisions, right? So how do I change this? Let me give it a title. I'm going to say this was a real estate matter. Okay. And I click Save. Now, if there's only a specific area of practice that you're focusing on, we have clients that actually break down that one single area of practice by geography. So you could have real estate Mississauga, real estate Burnaby, real estate, important geographies that you're starting to see clients come from or files being done. And this gives you, of course, a better appreciation for within that area of practice, which areas are working the best. Because you can take that and be able to better do your marketing efforts because because the revenue speaks for itself in terms of what you get back. So how do I customize this list? And these are all revenue accounts in uLaw, which allows you the ability to go into accounts, go into a chart of accounts, and for under legal work, you see all these different line items. So this exact order is one which you see here. Okay, right from notary, and what you see is what you get. So you go into chart of accounts, revenue, legal work. And if you wanted to change this list, you can tweak it the way you like. Let's say you don't like the notary, Toronto region. You could just say notarization. Click the save button. So we're basically just changing the label of this area of practice. So now when I go back to matters, you can see the first one just got changed from Notary Toronto to notarization. And that's how you can really tweak each of these areas. So I'm going to leave this as real estate. Okay. Alrighty then. So kind of our first steps to create the file. uLaw auto-generates a file number for you. Takes the first name's first alphabet, last name first alphabet, and hashes today's date and time, so it's always unique, cross-indexed, and it's easy for you to search this. If you're just looking for files to search on, quick views, your best bet. You can search by name, by title, any information that you know. So let's say you want to understand Bay Street condos. Right here, James Bernard, purchase of condo, Bay Street. And you have multiple more Bay Streets, purchase of condos, right, by date. So you can easy search for the information and get to that file. Now, another important step as to why I go back and forth between the settings and really prepping your uLaw platform. The next step, of course, is to start to understand how you want to move forward with the financial obligations of the client as per your retainer or your client engagement document, right, or letter. So if you're going to be utilizing your trust account and accepting retainers, of course, in this case, you would use it as part of the real estate transaction. But let's say you're, so for that, we need to understand your real life trust account and general account so that we can have a mimic placeholder account. So when you're using uLaw, we know exactly which accounts you're meant to use in real life. Yeah. So for that, we go back into your chart of accounts, and it's one of your assets. It's really one of your assets. Of course, chart of accounts remains to be the same for us and for any other accounting software. And right under assets, you have the trust account. And we have what's called as the pooled trust account, but you can also create multiple trust accounts. But we encourage you to have this kept minimalistic. Typically, a legal firm has maybe 2 or 3, not more than that. So here is your title, which you can change. If you can give us your bank information, your bank account, and the address. This becomes important when we're filling out Form 9As. It's only optional. It's not mandatory. But if you provide this information colon separated, and then we're now able to populate that information when, let's say, time comes for a Form 9A, where they do ask for this information, the bank, the account number, and the branch address. Okay, so as part of your initial setup too, one of the things we encourage you to do, and we actually help you as part of that onboarding session, is to set up these accounts. So set up your trust account when it comes to comparing it to the real life world. Set up your general account. Do you have any cash accounts, which is your own pocket money to be spent as part of the business? And yes. Similarly, we may help you. We help you with liabilities. If you have employees to deal with, we help with that. If you're bringing any capital into the business, we help set up that. And of course, with revenue, you have legal work. Sometimes Individuals may be doing third-party advisory work as part of their legal business. So you can really spread the overall job function based on what you need. And last but not the least, as part of the expense accounts, we also help set up some basic office expense categories. So if you're looking to add an expense, I know I'm kind of digressing, but let me say if you wanted to add an office expense. This list here, very similar to the list we saw with the matter area practice, this is the list of all of the different types of accounts or different types of expenses that you as a business may incur. So you can change this default list by going under expense accounts, office expenses. Okay. You can add to this, and you can also edit the same information. And we have an administrative role that allows you to delete information in uLaw. And so yes, you do have all the three options to be able to add, edit, and delete. So once you've set up those bank accounts that mimic real-life accounts, now you're able to go ahead and start to transact within uLaw. So let's say they gave you money in trust, and it's money going into the trust for another payment to deposit. Maybe it's a $500,000 house, and then they gave you $500,000. Okay, $1,130 being your fees, $1,000 plus taxes. And let's say they gave you a check. And this is where you tell us where you intend to put the money or have already put the money into. So let's say it's in your CIBC account, and you hit apply. So that's the reason why we ask you to set up those pieces of information so that it's easier for us to understand which account you're dealing with. Okay? So now right away you have $501,130. I'm not going to get into the weeds of the docketing and the dispersing. Let's say I'm just going to make this fairly straightforward. I'm going to say purchase of condo. I'm just going to go ahead and say initial meeting, retainer agreement. Okay. And let's say I could do billable times because our settings was defaulted to billable time. It's that. Or I can just toggle this by clicking this little arrow and say it's a flat rate of $1,000. So the $1,130, because consider this law firm to be in the province of Ontario. If you're not planning to charge taxes because you're just getting started and don't have that, you can always click on the edit button and make the default tax rate as 0. Likewise, your default billable rate is $400 copied over from the settings, but if you want to change this, by all means you can change this to $200, change it your assistant rate, whatever is suited for this particular file. Okay, so you have a lot of options around how you change the default settings at any time within a matter. Okay, so let me then do the next step, which is really invoicing the client. So we do allow you to do a preview, but for lack of time, I'm going to go ahead and generate the actual invoice for that $1,130. Of course, there's going to be a lot of disbursements. This is not the ideal real estate file. Whatever transactions that you have. Interestingly enough, we do allow you to import if you're using tools like the Conveyancer or Lawyer Done Deal. You are able to now bring all that information over directly. You don't even have to enter it into uLaw. You can just bring the conveyancer fee, the disbursement, or if you have it as a CSV file, you can bring that in as well. Okay. So here's the invoice, $1,000 for the work done. This is a running bill, so you know the money that was sitting in trust. And that's the retainer balance in trust. So if you're going to write a check to the opposing legal counsel or the other lawyer, you could now say withdraw from trust and other pay from trust. And let's see, this is $500,000. Writing your own check, or this could be however you do this. Purchase cost. Paid to okay, coming out of the trust account. In fact, you could also print that check. We had that little print check option. You could have ideally printed that check as well. So uLaw allows you to print checks, and that's another setting within our accounts, whether you have a top, middle, or a bottom check that you've purchased from your financial institution. Okay. So if you really look at this particular matter now, you can see there's a zero balance. Money came in, money left from a trust account perspective. $1,130 was invoiced for the legal office's work done, and now everyone's happy. The last thing left to do is, of course, make your money, which is move the money from trust to general, which you still haven't. So you can do that by doing the pending trust transfer. And this is where we as legal accounting software keep you prudent, which we allow you to only transfer over the eligible trust amount. So you can't just randomly move stuff over. It's only the eligible invoiced amount of $1,130. Okay, so you click on this little question mark, gives you the red button. You can move this from trust to your general account. And if you're in the province of Ontario, if you're doing electronic fund transfer, we also understand that there's a Form 9A that you can download, and we ask you whether you'd like to download it now. If that's the case, if you noticed, we've pre-populated the requisition number, which is really the reference number, the date of the transfer, and if you notice, this is all the information that you stored in our accounts, chart accounts, while creating that placeholder bank account that represents the real-life financial bank account, right? So you can either populate it that one time, or if you haven't populated it there, then you pretty much put that information every time into these fields, and then you can generate this document, or you can even come in here and enter all that information. These are editable fields, by the way. Okay, so now we've done this where we've created the client, done the conflict check, we've created a file, and now you understand how the settings and setting up your businesses to mimic all the real-life transaction placeholders right with the uLaw help, how they help, and now moves on to the next step of your aspect of using the platform, which is for the compliance, the documentation, the reporting capability of the platform. And of course, that's an ocean in itself, and we've done several webinars in the past. So please feel free to visit us, youtube.com, uLawPractice, to look at many of our previous webinars, some of them that have been CPD accredited as well, where we talk about ledgers and journals. But in general, we have this compliance button, which gives you the ability to generate monthly and yearly compliance. Keep in mind, of course, uLaw allows you to generate these compliance documents almost every day if you want it to be. But then a monthly is kind of, I would say, a good thumb rule that's been proposed, let's say, for the Law Society, so that you're at least having one reconciliation a month and you're having ledgers and journals generated for that month. Okay? So now that you want to generate these documents right from reconciliation, and if you have multiple trust accounts, uLaw allows you to reconcile those multiple trust accounts. It gives the ability to choose. So here's the 51030 that came in. When you're reconciling, of course, you're now comparing uLaw's record keeping to your financial institution's record, and you pretty much choose each and every record, change the dates if they're different. sometimes the bank date may be different from what you have entered. And we've done a full-fledged presentation just on reconciliation, so do look up that as part of our webinars. uLaw loves you to even preview it, so if you're doing this on a weekly basis, you can preview weekly and then deal with all of the non-preview transactions just for the last week so that you're really catching up and you're not waiting till the end of the month to do the 300 or 100 transactions that you may have that particular month. Rather, you can deal with it on a weekly basis, preview it. We'll keep that logged already so that you've dealt with it, and then only the new ones you have to deal in that last week. And you can generate that reconciliation report right away. You can also generate all of the Law Society's important documents that you need for compliance perspective. So let's say your trust ledger, and typically it's done on a monthly basis. So for the month of July, and if you notice for our client, James Bernard, and here's really the bang for your buck. So purely as a practice management system, you are just coming in, adding clients a file, telling us what's been done, got the retainer, you made the financial invoice, and a few dockets and disbursements. Now all of that automatically got converted into these compliant, audit-ready ledgers journals, right? So it clearly tells you that you've got the 501-130 on a specific date, and this was disbursed for the purchase of the cost of $500,000, and then through a legal invoice 3367, which is truly what that invoice was. So if you go back to that matter and you click on this no pending invoice, it tells you all the previous invoices that were generated, and here's the 3367, right? In fact, here's that invoice. And that's the reason for that transfer of 130, leaving your trust balance at 0. Whereas for a different client, Mr. Mo, there is a trust balance of $400. So you should see that in your reconciliation statement. If I search up for Mo, you see here that for Mo John, a trust balance, and this trust balance listing is a very important component of your reconciliation. Of course, this being a dummy account, you've got all this irrelevant data. It's not true to nature real life, but keep in mind, client's trust listing is all of the clients with their last activity date and their outstanding trust balance. This is what adds up to give you this. Okay? And here's your reconciliation statement for the month of July. And this is pretty much what you're rinsing and repeating every day for every new client. All you have to do is ensure that you're entering the data on time, and at the end of the week or month, you're reconciling and generating the ledgers and journals. Same thing goes for journals. Same thing goes for all the compliance documents, from journals to provincial documents such as Form 9A. If you didn't want to print that Form 9A at that time, you can always come back here and print those Form 9As at any time. Okay? So you can print the Form 9A for the entire month. And here's James Bernard's general ledger. $1,130,000 plus taxes, and that was moved over from trust to general because of this invoice. And here's all the Form 9A, including the 1,130, or rather, here's James Bernard's 1,130. Okay. Yeah, same thing goes for fee book, expense book. I also mentioned we're a business accounting software. So with another couple of minutes remaining, I'll just say add expense. The same product now allows you to capture expenses on behalf of your business's sake. So let's say this is a printing stationery, or maybe this is a office supply. Okay, let's say this is a laptop that was purchased, and we automatically calculate the taxes that you may have paid, or if there's a different tax, then you can change that. And let's say that you paid this to Walmart. Where did this money come out of? Maybe your general account, or maybe you use your business's credit card, or you could have used your own credit card. Okay, so you can use it on a personal account. But I'm going to say came out of my business's general account. Let's say debit transaction. This is, let's say this is backdated to the 15th, and I hit submit. So that's really an office expense that you've incurred as a business. But it's the same legal business that also runs files for clients with disbursements for them. So when I generate my compliance document and generate the expense book, what uLaw does, being a legal accounting system, is pretty much captures all of those transactions between expenses on behalf of clients, which is then named under the client, or if it's a business expense, it's labeled as business or corporate expense. So you purchased paper from Walmart before, and here's an application fee that was paid on behalf of a client with the appropriate taxes, and the more recent purchase of laptop where you paid $53 to Walmart. I'm going to show you the last document for the day and consider all of these HST information that you've paid and received. Right? As part of the invoice, you have received HST. So here's the invoice, and for $1,000, you did receive the $1,130 from the client. Now comes our last document for the day, the tax HST. And if I were to generate the monthly HST report, being again a legal accounting system, we combine the HST paid and the HST received. So you don't need a separate system, is the point really here. We tell you in a single snapshot how much money you owe the government if you were to file your taxes this month. And that includes the $130 that you just received from James Bernard and the $53 that you just paid for the purchase of the laptop. Okay? Across this month. So as you work through your workflow, as you start to utilize the platform every day and it gets better and better, you're starting to now maximize the value of the returns that you get out of the product. Because as I mentioned, this is a rinse and repeat, and if you've done this right the first few weeks, the first couple of months, and of course there's always a learning curve for any platform, but once you've done that initial investment of a learning curve in any chosen platform, and that's something that we talk about, it is important that you put the time and effort to learn a platform so that it can work for you at a later time. So with that being around top of the hour, I'm going to stop my presentation, reiterate and thank you for joining today's webinar, which is titled Getting Started with uLaw. And we looked at the agenda of some of the fundamentals of how you get started as soon as you sign up for the account, settings and account information that you need to provide us so that we know exactly which detail we're looking at in real life, and a simple workflow of how you intake clients, how you can import clients, create matters, and then be able to generate invoices and generate all of the documents needed, both LSO or whatever law society that you're dealing with related, as well as the CRA. So if you have any questions, please feel free to use the chat window at this given time, and I'll be more than happy, or my staff will be more than happy to answer those. Thank you very much, and thanks for joining. Oh, thank you. Okay, I have a question around help. So, of course, we have, as you said, says help. Sorry, I didn't mean to mention it like that. But yeah, we do have a help. We have comprehensive help, both self-help, but most importantly, the help that you get when you either email or call the support line. Most probably email, because that's how we respond back to client requests. And then if we do need a one-on-one session like this, we schedule it, right? The real people behind, we're not automated or anything like that. And if you look at the self-help, we have uLaw Answers, we have the uLaw User Guide, a Compliance Guide, an Audit Guide, right? You can do the entire help based on tutorials. These are all help videos that we have for almost every question that a customer has asked us over the past 11 years of our existence. That's all under uLaw Answers, also on our YouTube channel. So you can see almost 456 questions being answered. Yes, you are able to incorporate your own letterhead, logo, however you want to call it. It's right under Help, called Personalized Logo. In fact, one of our new features allows you to take a photo of a signature and upload it as a PNG or JPEG file so that all these documents, invoices, can be signed with that signature if you prefer. Awesome. If there are any more questions, thank you very much for joining. Have yourself a fantastic weekend ahead. We'll look forward to speaking with you in our next webinar next week. Thank you.